Hi everyone, it's Jeanette here from the Sewing Studio. Welcome to another video tutorial, which today we're going to be doing a bit of a continuation from one of the jelly roll blocks that we've done recently, and it was this one, it was the rail fence. And in that video, I said I had a specific setting in mind that I wanted to do with this particular block. And so this is it here. So I've put together the rest of it, and today we're going to be looking at adding the sashing and the cornerstones to complete this quilt. Now mine wasn't quite a full jelly roll, so I think I worked out from a full jelly roll you would be able to make 21 of these sort of 4-patch blocks from it. So sort of a 4x5 layout would be perfect. Mine wasn't quite a full jelly roll. It was one that was here in our fabric store, and I'd had my eye on it for a while, but I have managed to get 16 blocks out of it with a bit of extra fabric left. So, but all of this, with the exception of the sashing, has come from the jelly roll. The cornerstones I cut from a sort of remnant bits and spare bits of the jelly roll strips. So in that other tutorial, we've showed you how to make the block, but here, like I said, we're going to be doing the sashing and cornerstones to add to complete this quilt. So let me just fold this one out the way for the moment and bring in the pieces, put it under there, bring in the pieces. So I've got my blocks made. Now, I've got a pin in this top corner, and that reminds me, because I've laid it all out and got everything in the orientation I've wanted. So I put a pin in the top left-hand corner of each of the blocks, and then I know which way they want to go in. And the other thing I do at home is I colour code, so I know the sequence of the way the blocks go. I use coloured pins in rainbow order, and so I know which is one, so it's red, orange, yellow, green, etc., etc. And then that helps me when I come to put it together. I know where every bit goes. So that's just a little top tip. So these are just the final 2 blocks. I've already put the sashing onto the first 2 blocks here. So that's the quilt started, and there's my pin there to remind me that's the top left-hand corner. So we're adding these sashing pieces. Now I've cut this from a grunge. It's a basic grey grunge, God, that's a tongue twister, called Dawn. And I picked this one because it had some really nice sort of peachy tones that went in with sort of the apricot and sort of peachy tones of the fabric on this one. And just a reminder, the jelly roll, like I said, it was one we'd had here that I'd had my eye on for a few months. And this was cider, and I think that was a basic grey as well. So these all match in beautifully. Now my blocks, these should come out at 6.5. So when you put them together in a 4-patch, that should come out at 12.5. So these I've cut into 2.5-inch width strips by 12.5, which is the size of the block, and then literally just sew it onto the side. Now you only need to attach one of those on the first 3 blocks. The 4th block doesn't have a sashing on the end. So I'm just going to pin this, and then we're going to take that to the machine. But this came together really quite quickly because of how you've sewn. Now all I will say is if your 1/4 inch isn't an exact 1/4 inch, just measure your block, and whatever the size your block has come out at, cut your sashing to that length. Consistency is more important here than an accurate 1/4 inch, because as long as you're consistent across all your blocks and they all come out the same size, you'll be absolutely fine. So we're going to take that to the machine and we're going to sew 1/4 inch. Now I've put a little guide on my machine because there's no bar on this 1/4 inch foot, and because this is quite a long length, and particularly in a minute when we come to do the rows of sashing that go in between the blocks, it's really helpful if you've got something that helps with that accurate 1/4 inch. So I've actually put the little theme guide that comes with this machine on to make sure that I stay at my 1/4 inch over that longer seam. And then while I'm at the machine, I'm just going to add that final block onto the other side of this sashing. So I just put a pin at the start and in the end, and that helps to hold everything in place. Now that's all done, those two are ready to attach to this. So this is going to go there like so. So there's my pin to remind me that that's the top left. So I'm just going to fold those over, and we'll pin again, and then we'll take that back to the sewing machine. Now at home I would have just had that all right there by the sewing machine, but I just wanted to show you how that's come out. So we're going to just go and sew that seam there. So that's them all put together. So I always start with the horizontal and put all my rows together, and then I come back and do the vertical ones, which we'll do next. So I'm just going to take these to the iron, and we're going to press the seams towards the sashing. And there we are, that's that row all finished. Now I'm going to look for my pin. There it is, so I know that's the top. And I'm just going to set that up there for now, and we're going to concentrate on the horizontal rows with the sashing and cornerstones. So let me just, no, I think that one is trimmed to size. Yes, it is. I've got my strip, so this is our full width of fabric strip. I think that was one piece that I had left from the previous strip I was cutting. And we're just going to cut these into 12.5 because my block did come out at 12.5. So we're going to cut these into 12.5 inch lengths. So I tend to start by having it folded, and I tend to cut a bit beyond the 12.5, so my selvage edge is in there. And then I just flip those round and cut them exactly to the 12.5. And then I'll get another 12.5 piece out of that. So you'll get 3 12.5 inch pieces out of each width of fabric strip. And then you just have that little piece left. So we'll just put that to one side. I'm actually going to lay this out as the quilt is going to go. So we're going to have a sashing strip. So for the for the vertical ones, you need 3 strips. For the horizontal rows, you need 4. So they're going to go like this, and then the 4th will go there. And then our 2.5 inch squares will go like this. And I like adding cornerstones because it helps keep everything in alignment. When you just add a long row of sashing to any quilt, it's really hard sometimes to get this row, this vertical and that vertical lined up. But with that cornerstone, it makes sure that you can get everything lined up. So that's what our sashing row is going to look like there. So we're going to pick up all of those pieces, and I'm going to pick them up in order. Put a pin in them, and then we can take them to the machine and sew the whole row. So we treat this row as an individual row, if you like. And then we'll have one strip at the end. So I'm actually going to put them in the order that they went, and then that's our spare strip. So we're going to take those to the machine and attach this whole row together. So there's that row all sewn together. I'm going to take it to the iron. I've just given it a little finger press here. And I'm actually going to press the seams towards the sashing. So this has gone towards the sashing. So if we press that towards the sashing, they'll nest nicely. So I've just finger pressed for the minute, but we'll take that to the iron. There we are. Now it's actually going to go up there. This is the connector. There's my pin. So we're going to, now this is where I've got, I do pin. This is quite a long length. If it's a little short seam, I don't tend to quite so much. I might put a holding pin in. And I'm going to keep that yellow pin there for the minute. Now when we get here, we should just be able to, if I bring that down under the close-up, we should just be able to nest those seams. So you've got one seam going in one direction and one seam going in the other. That just needs to come up a little bit. And I can feel that's nice and flat. So I'm just going to pin sort of diagonally across there. I think I'm just going to put one pin to hold that in the middle. I don't know why I always keep the pin so far away from me. And then here, I put these pins in, but then I tend to get to the seam and take them out and just double check that everything hasn't moved. So this just takes a little bit of time, but it's worth it. It's better than finding you're a little bit off and unpicking. Right, let's take that to the machine and sew all the way along. Now this is definitely where having the bar is going to be helpful because it's a long seam. So I'm just going to check how I did, make sure I'm happy with where all my junctions have come out there, all the nesting points. And I'm happy with that, so I'm going to take it to the iron, give it a press. And naturally, it will probably want to go towards the sashing a bit more because there's less seams there. And there it is, and we're ready to attach this bottom row to the rest of the quilt. Now I tend to work in these smaller sections. I find it easier than sort of having a big lot that sort of just grows and grows and grows, and then you're adding tiny little strips to it. But let's say I've got this far, so we could just add this bottom section together. And now I'm looking for my pin, which I think, nope, it's there. So I've decided that was the top of the quilt. So this row is going to get added on here, like so. So I'm actually going to flip it round because I find it easier to pin that way. So let's just do that. I was wondering why that didn't work. The seam had flipped. But that's okay. I just pushed it back the other way. It's only that end bit that's actually twisted a bit on me. Let's probably when I was ironing. Poor ironing technique, Jeanette. There we are, that one's done the same. I'll put a pin there to help keep it because that's quite a long length. So say if you press all the seams towards the sashing, it should all nest together. And then one pin at the end here. And let's go crazy and put one there as well. Right, we're ready to do the final seam. Let's take that to the machine and do 1/4 inch all the way along. But it's a bit, it gets to this size and it becomes a bit more awkward. But we just go slowly. So we'll just check how we've done. And I'm just looking at my points here just to make sure I'm happy. And I absolutely am. So we can take that to the iron and just give it one final press. And then our quilt top is done. I need to sort that seam out. Oh. I keep trying to do that with that iron. I forget it lifts. There we are. And there it is, all done. So I'm picking off threads first, typical quilter. So there it all is. So as I said, I managed to get 16 blocks. Whoa! From the amount of jelly roll that I had. So I've got a 4x4 layout. So 9 cornerstones. And I think there were 24 pieces of sashing that went in between for those 16 blocks. Now I'm just going to decide whether I'm going to put a border on it or whether I'm just going to leave it there and put a binding. Now, size-wise, these blocks were 12-inch finished, so that's 48 plus 6, so it should be about 54 inches square. So there it is, all finished. Like I said, mine wasn't a full jelly roll, but if you have a full jelly roll, you should get 20 blocks with enough bits left over, and you might want to just pull out one of the fabrics to go in with the cornerstones. I used just under 1/2 metre of fabric for this, so if you were doing 20 blocks, you'd probably need a little bit more than that. I think this came out to about I think I had to cut 8 width of fabric strips for this size, so you may need a little bit more than that. But like I say, 1 jelly roll and sort of 1/2 metre to 3/4 metre of background for your sashings, and that should be done. I think I'm probably just going to add a binding to this and sort of leave it there because this was just leftover jelly roll strips that had been used for a demonstration that I thought was too good to go to waste, really. So I'm really pleased with how that's come out. If you give it a go, please do share photos with us. I know I've been looking at some of your photos and you've been sharing some of the projects we've done in the past, and it's really great to see, and you're all doing a fantastic job. So thank you very much. If you've enjoyed this video, please like, comment, subscribe, all those wonderful things, and share. And I'll hope you'll join me again here next time in the sewing studio.